Agawad. Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Hubach.
Present.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Present.
Councilmember Moorhead.
Present.
Councilmember Seamers.
Here.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. Could you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is presentations and awards. We have none tonight, and we have no one listed under personal appearances, so we'll move right into staff reports. Mr. Fearborn?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Krass to make a report for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, wanted to provide the council update on several projects. Starting tomorrow, the 58 Highway project, they will start placing asphalt on the eastern end near J Highway. Also with the milling and the curb work that they are doing, there will be one lane closed in each direction from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. That will be for the duration of the project. The Huntsman intersection will be closing tomorrow to start our work on the water quality project we have at the median there. That's Huntsman at 58. The detour will be Mott to Cinnabar, and we'll have signs up, and we had some advanced warning signs up there. We've also discovered a water main leak under Johnson Drive at 58 Highway. We're not exactly sure where it is, but we were going to be starting some exploratory excavations there on Thursday. And I have several people in town responding to a water main break on Olive Street between Madison and Park. There's going to be some low pressure there for a little while. We're not sure if we're going to have to completely shut the main off to complete the repairs or not. That completes my report.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any questions? Mr. Fearborn?
Thank you, Mr. Krass. And we really do want to thank the public for all of their patience on all of these projects that are going on right now, the pain before the beauty, if you will, when they're all done, and certainly gives everybody a chance to wave at their neighbors as they go by. I would ask Ms. Houck to make a report for the Arts Commission.
Good evening. Just some quick updates on what's happening with the Arts Commission. I updated you on the main project during our last meeting, the public art projects. Both of them are the key focus of the Arts Commission right now. And as I indicated last week, they did select Raymore artist Chet Redmond to move to be the artist for both of those projects. We also have our next Family Art Day on November 5th from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. at the Park House. It is $5 per person, and all ages are welcome. We've had a great turnout on those. And the topic this time will be color and pattern. And then in December, the last class of 2016 will be a holiday self-portrait class, also from 9:30 to 11:30 on December 3rd, and that's for kids ages 9 to 15. And in this class, the kids will bring in either a picture of themselves or use a mirror and do a pastel drawing with the help of the instructor, and then those will be gift wrapped for them to provide as a present over the holiday season. We are accepting applications for instructors right now. So the Arts Commission is working on their programming for next year. So if there's anybody who'd like to teach an art class, it doesn't just have to be drawing or painting. It could be music or singing or theater, anything arts related. There is a form on our website that you can get on and fill out, and we will be working on filling out that schedule. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Houck. Just for the upcoming schedule for the council, next Monday night is a 5th Monday in the month. It is also All Hallows Eve, and so there will be no work session scheduled for that particular evening for the city council.
Oh, really?
Breaking the streak. The next work session, or the next meeting of the council, would then be the work session on November 7th. Currently scheduled for that particular work session is an annual update from our chaplains program. I want to tell you about the things that they have been doing with the funding that they received this year. And we will also be going over, because as Mr. Krass says, it's never too early to talk about it, the snow plan for 2016-2017. Got some great stuff to show the council. That concludes staff report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff? Okay. We'll move along. We have no committee reports at this time, except that I think Mr. Moorhead, would you like to give a report on the charter review?
Sure. The charter review met last Tuesday. We had a good continuing discussion. It was a substantive discussion on Article 3, which deals with council member. And the general consensus, I'm not going to say what we ultimately decided because we haven't come to any direct conclusions, but we were addressing issues such as term limits, length of term, qualifications, residency, a lot of the meat and potatoes of kind of what is a council member. A lot of wonderful discussion on that, and we actually will, on our next Tuesday meeting, which is coming up, not tomorrow, but the following Tuesday, compensation of the council. So I suspect that will be a very spirited discussion. So,
All right, thank you. Next item is our consent agenda. It's rather long. We have 6 items on our consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve our consent agenda to include item A, City Council minutes for October 10, 2016, item B, Resolution 16-42 for the disposal of surplus property, item C, Resolution 16-50, reappointment of Jerry Faulkner to the Planning and Zoning Commission, item D, Resolution 16-51, the reappointment of John Berenson to the Planning and Zoning Commission, item E, 16-52, reappointment of David Woosty to the Board of Adjustment, and item F, Resolution 16-53, reappointment of Michael Vink to the Board of Adjustment.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. May I ask for the pleasure or the privilege of asking to have item A removed from the consent agenda so the absent members, myself and Ms. Abdelgawad, can abstain from that? That's generally our practice.
Sure, yeah, I think after the motion's been made and the second's been made on that by Ms. Hubach, so we'll go ahead and with your request, remove item A for consideration separately. Is that correct? Okay. We'll do that at this time. So at this point, we have a motion for items B through F for approval. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. And then, so we'll now consider item A, which is the city council minutes for October the 10th. Any discussion on that? Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you. Just for the record, I watched the council meeting, so I do feel prepared to vote on the minutes.
Okay, thank you. No further discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstention? 1 abstention. We have 7 yes and 1 abstention for the approval of city council minutes of October 10th. Thank you. We are now into unfinished business at this time. Ms. Warner, could I please have the second reading of Bill 3213 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3213 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving the fiscal year 2017 budget.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of Bill 3213?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3213 for the adoption of the fiscal year 2017 city budget, which includes the city manager's proposed budget and CIP with the proposed changes to the operating capital budgets voted by council at the first reading on October 10th.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3213. Any discussion? Ms. Abdelgawad?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we amend the motion to add $100,000 for trail lighting.
Second.
The motion's been made to and seconded to approve an amendment to the CIP, I assume, a portion of the budget. Is that correct? To add $100,000 for the lighting project. Is that right? I think it is the CIP.
Mr. Mayor, point of
portion.
order, at the first reading, this item was moved to the CIP per vote of the council. So it is in the CIP.
It's just moved for later consideration, correct?
Yes,
Not
but
for
it
this year's
is a part of, it is a part of the CIP, yes.
That is correct.
Okay. So you,
It was moved into the CIP. I'm proposing that we put $100,000 for it back into the budget for this year.
okay, All right, thank you for that clarification. So, and that, I assume the second is the same. So we've had a motion made and seconded to add $100,000 into the budget for lighting, trail lighting. Any discussion? Mr. Holman?
Again, I think that this idea may have merit. I did a little bit more research on this today, and I think that there are a lot more factors that we have not considered yet that really need much more time to flesh out before we put that kind of money towards this idea. It may be a good one, but I think it needs more time and more consideration by us and Parks Board before we put that kind of money forward. And my point that I've made a number of times, I think that it's starting to drive our unreserved fund balance to a dangerously low amount. I'd like to see a little bit more in there because we have a number of capital projects upcoming. One we're going to hear about, I believe, a little bit later, that we had to cut some out that we couldn't quite fund. So I really feel we need to keep that money in there for possible budget overruns on some of our capital projects.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Ms. Abdel-Gawad?
I'll just explain again my reasoning for this. I feel like, well, I know that if we put $100,000 in there, we're still going to have a higher available fund balance in our budget this year than we had last year in the budget that was approved. We know that lighting all the trails, which was something that overwhelmingly people said in our community conversations was important to them for the feeling of safety in the city. And it's going to be a very expensive project, and I just fear that if we don't start putting money toward this project, that it will be one that's easy to just continue to put off. And because as a council member, my job is to be the voice of the people, I feel like it's important for me to continue to push to get this project in the budget because this is what people said they wanted.
Thank you. Mr. Holman?
Thank you. I also disagree on the point that this is the will of the people. There were a couple of points that were made that came out of the final session of the community conversations. One was safety and security, and one was lighting. Those were general overarching topics, and we don't know the intent of the author. They could have been referring to safety and security on our city streets. They could have been referring to our parks. They could have been referring to shopping malls. And as far as lighting, we never did get a final idea on exactly what kind of lighting they wanted. Again, whether that was additional lighting at City Hall or whether they wanted additional streetlights, that was never answered. As I recall, there was one lone comment that said, should we consider lighting the trails? That's another thing another issue I have with this, doing it this quickly. Again, I think the idea may have merit, but I think it needs more time to be fleshed out as opposed to putting this kind of money at it at this time.
Okay. Mr. Moorhead?
Respectfully to both council members, we've already voted to add this into our budget and CIP. It was not added for next year, but at the time when it was discussed, it had a lot of support and a lot of vote on this council, including myself. But because of the nature of the project, it's going to be quite comprehensive, and it could take years to get something like this accomplished. So it is in the budget. I don't believe the amendment is actually trying to place a greater importance on it. The motion is to just add some money to go ahead and preemptively or kind of ahead of time throw a little funds toward it. The vote is really, do we put any money toward it at all, or do we put some money in, or do we not? I have no deep-seated fight on this. I mean, I could argue that I don't want to unnecessarily encumber money for years, but at the same time, I respect the concern of a council member wanting to see something not completely unfunded. So I think there's merit in both ways. But the long and short is we're not getting lights on trails here in the next few months. It's going to take a lot of time for the park board to look at this as well as for us. And so I guess for me, I see this as a very limited issue. Do we encumber some money up front, or do we need to? But this is in the budget. We have voted to include it. We're not taking it out, so I don't think we need to worry about that concern.
Thank you. Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did a little research today on the same situation, and I went back to the community conversations and looked at what we actually heard from the people. And one of the final tallies that we did was we had people vote on their top 4 concerns. And of the top 4 concerns, it specifically mentioned trail lighting was the most wanted of the list. There was, I think, number 2 was safety and security, but the specific part about trail lighting was the 8th one. I'm in favor of putting the $100,000 into this year's, but what I really would like to see before we actually start putting the project in is I think every trail would have to have a good neighbor meeting, because if the trail's right behind your house, like some are on near Eagle Glen, I don't know that those people would want a light right behind their house. Now, there is another section of trail that connects to Dean that is in wilderness. It might be hard to get electricity there, but it certainly is dark. And that would not have necessarily any residents near it at this time, but that would certainly have to be something that we look at. Each particular trail is going to affect different people in their own backyard. So I know this will be a lengthy project, but it's well worth doing.
Thank you. Mr. Seamers?
And Mr. Burke touched on my point, and what I mentioned last week at the work session was each trail is different. If you look at an overall view of it from a bird's eye view looking down, many of the trails are in open areas where, lighting won't affect, the neighbors and stuff like that. Many are underneath trees where safety could be a concern. And many are behind houses. And I know when the trail first went in behind Eagle Glen, there was a lot of pushback because those Eagle Glen residents believed that property was theirs as they were led by the developer initially. So I think trail lighting in certain places is warranted, but I do believe we need to flush it out a little better before we just start saying we're going to put a light here and a light there. But I do agree, many places need trail lighting. Many others I would be opposed to putting trail lighting in.
Okay, Ms. Abdelwan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to say I completely agree with the last 3 council members who've spoken. We know that this is going to be a big project, and that's part of why I've been so forceful about getting it in the budget to get it started. We need to get this ball rolling. We're not trying to say this is the trail we're going to put it on. We're not trying to say yet these are even the lights that are going to go there. We're just saying this is important to our city, and so we need to get started on this project. We need to direct our staff by way of the budget to start looking into getting lights on some of our trails for the concerns of safety and to allow more hours of use in our trails.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Hubach?
Well, I wanted to know how many miles of trail are we talking about, and how far apart they're going to be? What's the yearly cost going to be? For instance, sometimes I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I see park lights just blazing around, and I just wonder, is somebody using the park at that time of day? Why do we have those lights burning? Is that something that we should consider? There are time limitations?
Yeah, I think that's a good follow-up with the Parks Department. So, they're not contending that we have a plan. We need to study a plan. So we're working that way. Mr. Moorhead.
And Ms. Hubach, I would kind of expand on that. Again, those are the very questions that would precipitate us having more discussion with the Park Board and ourselves. But the motion before us is merely to whether we encumber $100,000 or not. That's really the merit. We voted to put it in the budget, so we've already acknowledged the merits of it. Really, no need to discuss that. The question is, do we encumber the money?
Any further discussion? If not, we have a motion on the floor for amending the budget for the 2017 city budget by $100,000. If there's no further discussion, those in favor of the motion for amending? 1, 2, 3, 4. Against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Should I exercise my right here to vote? I'm going to say yes on this, and we're going to add it in to the budget because I do think that it has an opportunity to be considered, maybe not spent, but to be considered. I think it's the right thing to do, and maybe it will give that enough effort to push that project forward. So I'll vote yes on that. The motion passes at this time for the amendment. Now we do have on the floor.
Since that vote is down, I would actually now make a motion to amend Bill 3213
Okay.
to remove the that was my motion or my request to have that added on. The numbers that I was given or thought up front turned out to be different, and it was not 92,000, and because of that and my error, I'd ask that be removed until for further consideration.
Okay, and the amount?
The full amount of the 92,000.
92,000, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to remove the exercise equipment from the plan at the cost of $92,000. Further discussion? All those in favor? Against? Motion passes 6 in favor, 2 opposed. So that amendment passes. Now we're back to are there any further amendments to the budget that would like to be motioned for? If not, we'll move forward with the main motion to approve or to adopt the FY 2017 city budget as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 8-0. Thank you. Now we have new business. Could I please, Ms. Werner, could you please, let's see, what do we want to do here? It's a liquor license application for Bobby's Place. We have a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at this time, and I'll ask for Ms. Werner's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Rebecca Gardner Brown, owner of Bobby's Place LLC, located at 422 West Pine Street, has submitted a liquor license application for the years 2016-2017. The application submitted had the necessary documents as required by City Code. If approved by the City Council, further approval to obtain the city license is still subject to state requirements. The applicant is in the audience should council have any questions. Lastly, in accordance with City Code Section 600.090C, anyone providing testimony as to the application will be sworn by the city clerk so their testimony can be entered into the public record.
Okay, thank you, Ms.
Concludes my
Werner.
staff report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions at this time? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would care to, or the applicant care to address the council at this time on this application? If you please come forward, keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at this time. Is there a motion to dispose of this item?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the liquor license application for Bobby's Place LLC.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the liquor license application of Bobby's Place LLC. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimously, 8-0. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the Evanbrook 7th Preliminary Plat Project. Could I please have the, could you please provide to me the first reading, the reading of Resolution 1649?
The reading of Resolution 16-49 by title only. A resolution of the Raymore City Council approving the preliminary plat for Evanbrook's 7th plat, lots 204 through 227, located in the northwest and northeast quarters of Section 21, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, all in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Mr. Mayor, before a staff report, I'd make a motion to continue Resolution 16-49 to our first public meeting on November 14th.
Second.
There's been a motion made to continue the reading of, this Resolution 16-49 to what date?
November 14th, which is, I believe, our first public meeting in November.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr.
And there's a
I believe the wording would be postpone. Yeah.
Postponed. Thank you.
Very good.
postpone until date certain, November 14th. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. Moorhead.
Since I'm the moving party on this, I'd like to go ahead and just briefly speak to this, and I'll try to keep my comments brief. I have zero concern about the preliminary plat and the developer on this contained within the four corners of the plat. This issue first came to light to me at a Tuesday night meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I had a chance to sit in on the end, but I didn't get to hear a lot of the discussion during it. And I have had a chance to speak with over 25 residents, both of Dutchman Acres as well as Raymore residents that live here in Raymore. There are a number of issues that have come up about this, some of which easily to resolve, some of which I think more information is needed. The discussion during planning and zoning appropriately by staff was limited to the plat, and yet we have some issues that do extend beyond and do touch and concern Dutchman Acres, as well as some other areas outside of the plat in Raymore. And I just believe that more information is needed. We've not had a work session on this. I believe we could schedule to have some time on November 7th at the work session to have staff answer some additional questions that have come up from all parties, including council, to deal with the cause and effect of this. The two issues particularly are one is transportation, and that deals with the flow through of Sunset passing from Raymore down through Dutchman Acres, and some either to make that occur in the light most favorable to the people affected, or to shut that project down if need be. In addition, there's some stormwater management issues, and we as a council do bear some issue regarding that. And there's some stormwater issues as I've gone out and taken a look at the property in Dutchman, that I think we need to be fully informed about this to see how this is going to affect people. The vote at the Planning and Zoning Commission, code requires 60 days for it to be heard before the council. We're 6 days into 60. I don't think it would be any harm for us to be better informed before we come back on the 14th, and more importantly for the residents, many who are here, to have good information to either support the position they have or to change that position. I'll say of the 25 people that I spoke with, not one nasty, disrespectful comment was made. Firm in their position, but very, very respectful. And to me, that carries a lot of weight, because these are very substantive issues and we are touching concerning other people. I think we need to respect that. In addition, because this does involve the county, we just have a lot of variables at play here. And to vote on something in 6 days, I think is not respectful to ourselves or others. And like I said, no harm to the developer, because again, this is not any criticism of the plat itself, but yet there are some other collateral issues that I think it would be time well spent to have further discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Burke.
I took the opportunity to drive through Dutchman Acres again on Saturday, and somebody had a nice deer hanging from a tree. If you're out there, I saw that. But anyway, I think certainly to look at it a little more would be a good idea, and make sure that we have all the facts and proceed from there.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Seamers.
I guess my only concern with postponing it would be, what is going to change with the plat as it's written between now and the time that it would come up for us again? We're not going to lessen the width of the road. We will probably take a look at some of the stormwater issues, but we also need discussions with the county about whether or not that road can be improved upon when Sunset is complete. So I agree that we probably need to take a look at it, but I'm not sure why we need to postpone the resolution, because it's just a resolution to get it on the books, to get started working on it.
Okay, well, if there's anything else? There's a motion on the floor to postpone this particular item until the work session of November 14th. There's no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Passes 7 in favor, 1 against. The next item is the Evanbrook 7th final plat. Could I please have the...
Mr. Mayor, staff would recommend pulling that particular item because it is contingent on the resolution being passed.
Okay. So the item C, Evanbrook 7th final plat, is pulled from our agenda for this evening. I may not have to take a break. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3217 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3217 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri approving a final plat for Timber Trails open space plat located in the southwest quarter of Section 17 and the southeast quarter of Section 18, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. Could I have a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Cataret to make the staff report.
Thank you, sir. Bill 3217 proposes the Timber Trails open space final plat. This particular request really started from the city standpoint. One of these road segments approved by the voters in the general obligation bond election was the construction of Johnston Drive between Fox Haven and Dean Avenue. In order for the city to move forward with that project, we needed to secure the right-of-way that was necessary. So staff did approach the landowner, who is Hunt Midwest Residential Development, with that request that we were interested in constructing this roadway. That conversation led to discussion of the parkland dedication that's part of the Timber Trail subdivision. So the developer was agreeable to moving forward with the project, went ahead and submitted this final plat that's before you this evening. And again, the final plat doesn't include any specific residential lots, but it does include the roadway, right-of-way, and all the parkland dedication area that would be south of Johnston Drive, all the way down to the Timber Trail subdivision. If you've walked the trail, it's the Lamore Trail that goes through the property. It goes right through the area which would be future parkland that would be dedicated to the city. So it's somewhat of a joint application between the applicant and the city of Raymore. Overall, the plat is a little over 16.5 acres. The parkland dedication itself would be right at 15 acres. In the future, there'll be some additional parkland north of Johnston Drive that will be dedicated as well. That won't come in until the residential phase north of Johnston moves forward. Johnston Drive is a collector roadway, so it's a 60-foot right-of-way. There will be no residential driveways coming off of this roadway. With the neighborhood park that may happen in the future, likely to require a small parking lot, that would have to have an access off of Johnston Drive into a parking lot area. Probably very similar to Ward Park Place Park, if you're familiar with that. Both the roadway and the parkland dedication area is consistent with the preliminary plat that was approved back in 2004. Planning Commission has submitted proposed findings on this request. Is at their October 18th meeting that they voted 7-0 to accept those findings and forward this case to council with the recommendation of approval. So that concludes staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Could I please get a motion to dispose of Bill 3217?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3217 for the Timber Trails open space final plat.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3217. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
No,
Oh, wait, hold on. Ms. Ubach has a
Yes,
question.
I had a question on that. I wanted to make sure about the parkland. Is it being donated at this time, or are we having to wait? And why can't we go ahead and donate it now, have the land donated now so that we have it in our system?
There have been discussions with the developer, with Hunt Midwest, on when the land would be dedicated. It is not being dedicated as part of this final plat. They're dedicating the right-of-way for Johnston Drive, and we're creating the tract that can be dedicated to the city of the future. We haven't specifically asked when that dedication will occur. That would be the next step for us to take. I believe the developer would be interested in knowing the city's intentions for the parkland. They know they have to dedicate it, but we're asking them to dedicate it ahead of when they were ready to dedicate it. And so I think they are asking back, they just want to be certain what the intended use would be of the land, at least have some idea of what we intend to do with the property. So I think that would be the next step of the discussion, is simply making the formal request to them to follow through with dedication. I don't think they're against it. I think they just want to, they wanted to take it one step at a time, and at first they wanted to get the plat done and completed, and then it would be a separate document for actual dedication to the city of that land.
Well, a concern that I had was that, as I understood the park board, they said they weren't ready to do anything with it yet because they didn't know how to use it. And every single park that we have done that the city owns, we got the land and then we decided how we were going to use it. We didn't want to decide how we were going to use it first and to the other. And I'm interested in getting this land under city control so that we can decide how we want best to use it. Because if you look at it in Ward 4 where I am, we have 4 parks, and Ward 2 has the big one, and so does Ward 3. But Ward 1 does not have any parks at all, if I'm correct. And I think that it's time that we put some in there.
Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I have some of those concerns. First of all, I'll clarify, and not disrespectfully, Ward 1 does have some parks. It's trails, that's what we're limited to. We don't have a big park, and I'm very excited about this. But one question that I would have is, since this is not what will be dedicated tonight, what's in the encompassing all of the red, we're only dealing with right-of-ways. Is there a possibility that the 15.24 acres could be a moving target in the future? My question is it always going to be this spot where we're looking at tonight, or could this dedication area in another place of this development be parkland in the future?
Mr. Caderet.
I can attempt to address that. When the preliminary plat came forward for Timber Trails, it encompassed the entire development, single family and the multifamily south of the Walmart. This is somewhat locked in at this point in time, as long as that preliminary plat is valid. They had to dedicate X number of acres of parkland, which is what they have done. And this parkland dedication was initially presented to the park board, approved by the park board, and then submitted to planning commission and council and approved as part of the preliminary plat. So yes, it is locked into this area, and it's specifically the plat itself would make that an open space tract. Again, it lines up exactly with what we agreed to and what they said they would do for future dedication to the city. The only way that really that could be moved is if the preliminary plat expired and we had a different development come forward and we had to recalculate the parkland dedication. And then at that point, it could be located to a different area.
Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Caderet, for that information. What my concern is that on my time at the council, it's been my understanding and my point that development drives the building of infrastructure, the roads and such. What we are doing here, and this is approved by the voters. This is Geo Bond, and I completely support this road going through there because the traffic that'll be alleviated from 58 and Huntsman into Arrowby is just worth its weight in gold as far as I'm concerned, living in that neighborhood. But if that parkland, what we're looking at tonight in that picture, is to be a moving target and go southward, what we're doing is making a very prime real estate by us putting the road in there. That's my concern. That's why I'm asking these questions. I would be very, very supportive tonight if I had pretty good, rock-solid statements saying that is not going to be a moving target. But if it's a moving target and what we're doing is enriching a developer, I'm not going to support that.
Mr. Caderet, do you have an answer for that?
Just one more comment. We, the city, somewhat lock in that as parkland by approval of this plat. We're approving that as a platted tract of open space. The only way that can be changed is for the developer then, the property owner, to come back to us to alter that plat. So we, in essence, with the approval of this, are really locking it in, that area south of Johnston that I'm talking about as part of this plat, locking it in for open space, future parkland. The only way that could change that is for the developer to get city council approval in the future to move it.
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for Mr. Caderet. we do see on number 9 that it says the floodplain extends into the open space, and so much of that couldn't be built on, even if the land was worth more because of the road, but it wouldn't be worth more because of the floodplain, correct?
That is correct. There certainly is a swath of a floodplain that goes up into the area that makes it unbuildable, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Hubach?
I'm wanting to have the land dedicated as we do this. I don't want to wait until next year or the year after or something like that. They want to give us parkland, let's take it as parkland and open space. Not every park has to be fully developed. Sometimes just open ground is the best park that you can have, and I would like to see that happen here. If you look at the maps, there's a lot of houses all the way around it, and so there's no reason why we couldn't go ahead and be using this land right now.
Mr. Kellogg?
Mr. Mayor, I thank you, and I'm going to respectfully disagree. And I appreciate your point, and I'm right there with you. But it's a point of process and procedure. What's on the agenda tonight is exactly what staff has said, is the right-of-way. We can't just add to the agenda because it hasn't been noticed up, first and foremost. Secondly, is that those discussions have not been had yet, and that's why I'm asking the questions I am right now, because I don't want to give preliminary okay to it before. I'm just reluctant to it, and I don't want to go any further than that. But what you're asking for, Mrs. Hubach, and I respect it, but we can't just insert something into the agenda without noticing it up, and we have not done that.
The only thing that we've introduced, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Holman has, hold on. Mr. Holman has his hand up. Mr.
I have
Holman?
a question for Mr. Catterat, if he would indulge me. The best and only thing we could do tonight to alleviate Mr. Kellogg's concerns about movement of the land would be to pass this as presented. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And to alleviate Ms. Hubach's concerns about wanting to take the parkland as quickly as possible, the fastest and best and only thing we could do tonight is to approve this bill in front of us right now. Is that correct as well?
That's correct.
Thank
And
you,
as
sir.
I indicated, simply move forward with discussions with the landowner
Thank
with
you.
a dedication.
Okay. Anything else? Good to go? All right. We have a motion on the floor to approve the first reading of Bill 3217. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Last item on under new business is, could I please have the first reading of Bill 3210 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3210 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Straub Construction Company for the Raymore City Hall Annex Project, City Project Number 16-227-201, in the amount of $2,890,709, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints, and authorizing the mayor to declare this as an emergency.
Thank you. Could I have a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Ms. Halpin to make the staff report.
Thank you. The city recently received 3 bids in response to the RFP for the construction of the Municipal Center project. Straub Construction was determined to be the lowest and best bidder, and they're in the audience tonight. Straub had an initial bid of $3,230,000. Staff negotiated with Straub for a contract amount of $2,890,709 to better meet the budget constraints of this project. The changes were components that were enhancements or were items that could easily be phased into the project at a future date. No changes were made to the core building, the core sidewalk network, and the enhanced lawn area that we have been referring to as the Grove. The negotiated scope changed 2 items. The parking lot was changed from pervious pavement to the traditional concrete and asphalt mix for a savings of $72,901. And the trail side node, which was the little shelter structure out in the middle of the property, the sidewalk leading to it, and the extended walking trail throughout the property were removed from this phase of the project for a save of $266,390. Staff is working to identify other funding sources to add the shelter and the trail network back into the project in the near future. This project, as presented, does fall within the available funds for this project. In order to allow the schedule to progress as quickly as possible, staff has requested that this item be done as an emergency reading tonight. I will note that the contract was not originally written that way, so it does have a date of November 14th, which contemplated a second reading. So the date on the copy that will be provided to the mayor for signature will be October 24th. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any? Mr. Kellogg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate the point of staff asking for this under emergency situations and us moving forward on it. My only concern would be is that if any other contractors or bids that we would be, if they have the option of being here tonight and they know that we were going to do this under emergency reading, that they be afforded that option. So that's my question, is are all of the bidders aware that we're doing this? And so if they see that we are awarding this and they have a problem with this, that they can come back to the council during the second reading?
Any answer there?
That I am aware of, they're not aware that it is an emergency reading, sir, but they are aware of who we're making the award to.
Has staff taken any calls, concerns, or anything from the other bidders? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Do we have an approval of the first reading before we go to the second reading?
That's correct, sir. You treat the first reading just like any other.
Okay. Mr. Seamers, did you have something?
It's more just a curious question while we're in this topic. The pervious concrete, I would have liked to have seen that in the project to help alleviate some stormwater issues down the road. I guess my curiosity is, what is the life expectancy of the pervious concrete versus the regular asphalt and concrete that we're going to do? Is it negligible? Is it, is it better, worse?
Let me preface the remark. The asphalt is probably going to last for about 12 to 13 years. Is that fairly accurate, Mike? It would be my intention, we're going to do everything we can to bring all of these items to you. You'll note the items that have been removed are the outside items. We want to be able to keep the integrity of the first-class building that is going to be going in there that we've been presenting to the voters. So we can find ways, we will find ways to make sure that these items come back before you all for consideration. Mike and I talked about the parking lot. We would like to be able to bring all of this to you before the building is finalized and we're cutting a ribbon over there, including the pervious parking lot. There's 5% contingency built into this. While that seems a little bit small, sometimes, as Mr. Crass put it, this is a slab building on grade. We're going to do everything we can to hold every single line item to the line item, which would then mean the first item that comes back in using those contingency funds is the pervious pavers, because once the asphalt parking lot goes down, unlike the other items, we can't go back and pull it out. We're going to have to wait till it degrades and then put in a pervious surface. So that's our first priority as far as getting those in. Does that answer the question, sir?
Yeah. Mainly it was just a life expectancy of the pervious pavers versus the asphalt.
The pervious pavers would last considerably longer, I am certain.
Okay.
Mr. Moorhead?
Mr. Fearborn, but so the amount taken out of the contract for the pervious pavement was $72,000, correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, but my read of your staff report shows that we have a net value of savings of $76,000. Why can't we, that's with the 5% contingency, why couldn't we just throw that back in and we're still under that ceiling and we get the pervious payment?
As I had stated, the 5%, we're going to try to hold their feet completely to the fire on so that we can actually use the 5%. But from a conservative nature, I would strongly recommend that the council hold the line on the dollar. I'm nervous. I would strongly recommend that the council hold the line on those. And if we have to find an alternative funding source for these three, we'll come to the council with those at the same time. It'd still be done at the same time before this, but I just get nervous. We had actually estimated and Straub has been great to work with so far, wherever they're sitting behind me. They've been great. The original estimates for this particular project, which we did a lot of research on, were in the 225 to 235 range per square foot conservatively. The bids came in, and you can see Straub was the low bidder, came in at $288 a square foot. Things are happening. There's a lot going on, a lot of building going on. These are the prices that are being commanded, and it's a short time frame job, but we're going over into a new year. I would like to keep as much in the fund to then be able to present to you when we have to as possible.
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question, I guess, for Mr. Fairborn. I noticed there were a lot of detailed questions back and forth between Straub and staff, and I thought that was the attention to detail by the construction company, I thought was very high and good. Did the other bidders do that level of detail in their questioning? Because to me, it seemed like this level of detailed questioning really showed a commitment to the project in a positive way.
We did receive questions from other contractors who were interested in this project.
Thank you.
Mr. Holman.
Thank you. Just to clarify, Mr. Fairborn, I'm assuming the reason for the request for emergency read is to keep the project on its timeline path that we promised the voters we would stick to as closely as we could. Is that a correct assessment?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
Did you have anything else? If not, could I please have a motion to dispose of Bill 3210?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3210, the Raymore City Hall Annex Contract Award to Straub Construction.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3210. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. So at this time, this item is on our agenda tonight as an emergency reading. I've granted the request from staff that this be an emergency reading in order to keep the tight construction schedule of the project and allow for groundbreaking before the winter weather sets in. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3210 in its entirety?
The second reading of Bill 3210 in its entirety, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Straub Construction Company for the Raymore City Hall Annex Project, City Project Number 16-227-201, in the amount of $2,890,709, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints, and authorizing the mayor to declare this as an emergency. Whereas the Raymore City Hall Annex Project was included in the 2016 budget, and whereas the City Council finds the improvements are necessary and finds it to be in the best interest of public health, safety, and welfare, and whereas the bids for the project were received on October 4th, 2016, and whereas the bids were provided as follows: Heron Laughlin Construction, $3,813,409, KES Construction, $3,390,000, Straub Construction Company, $3,230,000. Whereas staff has negotiated with the lowest best bidder to better meet budget constraints, and whereas Straub Construction Company has been determined to be the lowest and best bidder. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Raymore as follows. Section 1, the mayor is hereby directed and authorized to enter into a negotiated contract in the amount of $2,890,709 with Straub Construction Company for the Raymore City Hall Annex Project. Section 2, the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized to execute the contract hereto as Exhibit A for and on behalf of the City of Raymore. Section 3, the city manager is authorized to approve change orders for this project within established budget constraints. Section 4, emergency reading. In order to maintain project and budget schedule, the mayor hereby authorizes the passage of this ordinance as an emergency bill. Section 5, effective date. The effective date of approval of this ordinance shall be coincidental with the mayor's signature and attestation by the city clerk. Section 5, severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, phrase, or portion of this ordinance is for any reason held invalid or unconstitutional by any court of competent jurisdiction, such portion shall be deemed a separate, distinct, and independent provision, and such holding shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions thereof. Duly read the first time this 24th day of October 2016. Be it remembered that the above ordinance was approved and adopted this 24th day of October 2016 by the following vote.
Thank you. I noticed there's a Scribner's error on that last page where we've got two section
I corrected
fours.
the
Did you get
numbering
it?
as I read.
Oh, okay. All right.
We'll catch it when I print it off for you
Okay.
tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, in accordance with city code, I would ask that any member of the public desiring to speak on this item come forward, state your name and address to the city clerk, and direct your comments to the chair, and limit your remarks to 5 minutes or less. Is there anyone wishing to address the council at this time on this project? Hearing none, we'll move on and have the discussion from the council here. So I would ask for a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 3210.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3210 for the Raymore City Hall Annex Contract Award to Straub Construction.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the emergency and second reading of Bill 3210. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. At this time, we move into public comments. I would ask that anyone wishing to address the council at this time, please come forward. Please identify yourself for the record and keep your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Anyone? Okay. With that said, we'll move on to mayor and council communication. Ms. Hubach, why don't you go first tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing tonight? Mr. Barber?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody that lives in Raymore obviously is affected by 58 highway construction, and it's interesting, we had two things in the agenda tonight about connectivity of our city, and I think it's those things are very important, and they're really important when we have a main artery diminished like we do right now. And I'm glad that we're kind of thinking ahead, planning ahead, and looking at that those issues. I think of the city of Branson, you have 76 highway, and when you go down there, they have the routes now colored. I think they're yellow, green, and blue, so you can get off of that main artery. We're obviously not going to be a Branson, but it's nice to have Lucy Webb and some of those areas that we can go around 58. It is an inconvenience, but at least we can get by with our day and get our business going. So I think it's kind of ironic that all those things kind of come together tonight, and we're going to be discussing them further. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to thank the Raymore drivers for being courteous to each other with all the projects that are going on with the construction in the neighborhoods. We know that 25 is a little too fast for most of these projects when there are workers in the street, there are kids trying to get home from the bus and things like that. And I haven't had a single person that hasn't tried to offer the right-of-way to me first, and I'm wanting to do the same for them. And I appreciate the Raymore drivers. Thank you.
Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge staff and thank them for all of their efforts on the construction project going on in 58. I think that's going very well, just like what has been said already tonight. I did see the early warnings this morning at 5 o'clock this morning. I also saw a utility truck there flashing his yellow lights. I didn't know if I was going to get around him or not, but I did. So I appreciate that, and so do the neighbors. I did hear about that when I was at work from some of my neighbors that I work with. So thank you for that, and I'm very excited about the median there at Huntsman, and it's very good to see that coming along, and I think it's a very wise decision, very good of staff to take all those projects in a timely manner and an orderly manner. So the disruption will be there, but it's at the same time that we're already being disrupted. So I thank you for that. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Ms. Abdelgawad?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be short. I just want to say that I think it's very, very exciting to see all of the awesome work happening in the city. Thanks to the bond issue, the 58 Highway, Johnston Drive, the City Hall Annex, we've got lots going on. Thanks in big part to the voters voting for that bond issue. And I hate to put you on the spot, Nathan, but I know that Harvest Night's coming up this weekend. Do we have a minute to come up and share the details? Thanks.
So
That's why I volunteered you and I didn't say it.
that is just fine. So Harvest Night is this weekend. It's at Recreation Park. It does begin at 6 p.m. and it ends at 9 p.m. We have the hay rides as usual, pumpkin decorating contest, face decorating, all of the typical activities. We're looking for volunteers for the spooky part along the trail. So if you know anybody or would like to volunteer, please contact our office, and look forward to having you. It's always a great time. Parks look great. It's fall. It's pretty. So love to have you.
And can I add one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
And the dedication of the fort at Rec Park
Yes.
is,
That was this morning.
that was this morning.
Yes, at 9 o'clock this morning. We have
And that's
pictures on our
awesome.
Facebook, so feel free to go check that out. But Lowe's did a fantastic job for us. We really appreciate their volunteerism, their dedication, their time, and their efforts. And as the kids can only say it so eloquently, enough with the ribbon cutting, let's play. So we ended it, and then we let them play, and that's what we built it for. So thank you for bringing that up as well.
Mr. Peerborn, did you have a comment on that?
And the master of all speeches, Mr. Icky, was complimenting Mr. Mustine on his presentation this morning, saying it was very, very well done. So.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Mr. Holman?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Feuerborn, please pass on my appreciation to, I suspect, Mr. Rulo and ground staff for the beginning of the seasonal plantings that are now present in front of City Hall along with the bollards. I think the mums look beautiful. It really dresses up City Hall. Did an excellent job. I'm looking forward as we go through the seasons. I think we're going to do it 3 times a year, and looking forward to see the different plantings are there, but I think it really was a good idea, and I think it turned out great. Second thing I will give kudos to, I'd like to address City Council and give kudos to Mr. Feuerborn and staff. We've given a lot of well-deserved accolades for how the project of 58 is being handled, and I couldn't agree more heartily. However, one I think maybe we overlooked a little bit was this one tonight, and that's the annex. I know Mr. Feuerborn and staff put in a great number of hours trying to figure out how to give us and the citizens what we wanted with this, with the unforeseen financial burden that came in front of them. I think Mr. Feuerborn's hair got a little grayer, and I think he got a little older, but there was a great deal of time and effort and decision-making put into this as to what could be cut to keep it within our budget range and yet hopefully still bring it back around later. I, for one, and I think everybody here at the table else would agree, thank you very much for the great effort that you put into that and the way it was presented to us. Thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Moorhead?
The only comment I have kind of ties in with an issue that we postponed tonight. It was very strange because a number of the people, some of whom were here tonight, actually came to my day job and caught me at my office. And of some of the concerns that they expressed regarding the Good Neighbor meeting and planning and zoning, I became very keenly aware where I had to apologize on behalf of the council. And this is meant as to Mr. Zur, Mr. Catterett, and Mr. Crass. I sat in on the planning and zoning, just the tail end of it last week, and it really hit me with some of the comments the residents and non-residents made, where I had to apologize. And the reason being is because I had to indicate to the citizens complaining that we put you in a very difficult position at times. And, you know, we as a council, we're the why and the staff is the how. And we dictate policy and you don't. And you do the ABCs and you tie everything out. And, you know, when you're dealing with a plat, you're dealing just within the four corners of that plat. And it's not your job to deal with the outside issues. And we as a council, based on our construct of government, limit your ability to do that. We take that, and then through Mr. Fearborn, that kind of gets disseminated down. And, you know, when we deal with the strategic plan, you know, we dictate kind of the policy, but you implement the actions. And so I apologized and took responsibility for any misunderstandings that occurred during those meetings, because I wanted them to understand that you guys do such good work, but at times when you're not dealing with things, it was not intended to be disrespectful. It was you were staying within the construct of what we ask you to do. And you guys do a very good job at that. And you do such a good job at that that you literally don't talk about policy and things that are outside of your scope. And I think a few people misunderstood that, and that's our fault, because that's our job, and that's why we're taking that on. And so I just wanted to express that to you, because I think sometimes we forget when we send you guys out to do all that work that people see your actions and impute or assume and fill in all those other gaps. And that's you guys take a lot of heat for us that sometimes we don't always appreciate. So thank you very much for all that you guys do. I know that when I did go back and look at the full planning and zoning meeting, I thought there was a very good presentation on the plat itself and the discussion on that. And you know, unfortunately, you took a lot of grief over and above that. So, and I know you guys do at times with phone calls just during the week as well. So thank you very much for that. I just wanted to acknowledge you guys a little over and above the norm.
Mr. Seamers.
I don't really have anything tonight except that it's my second meeting and I'm still here. I'm still enjoying it too, so it's all that I thought it would be. So,
awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, thank you. I have several items I'd like to bring up tonight. Last time we met as a council up here on the dais, we forgot to mention the shred event, which had happened the previous weekend. I know the chief was very involved in that, Mr. Fearborn. And what did we recover at that point? Like 10,000 pounds of. Sure. It was right at 10. I mean, that means that the people of our community are taking advantage of that, because it's sometimes the documents that you have that you want to protect and have shredded seem to mount up over the year, and it's hard to get it through that little tiny shredder that you have at home. The other thing is that I understand we had a great drug take-back program Saturday. How many pounds of? About 300 pounds. You know, if you can't envision that, that's a lot of drugs, that prescription medications that are recovered. And again, that is a great opportunity. And just to remind folks, we do have a take-back box downstairs in the lobby at the police department. Any time of the day or night, they can be also distributed there, not just, was it twice a year we promote it? Yeah. Tomorrow night is the pumpkin auction. The pumpkin auction is done by the Chamber of Commerce. it's a fundraising event. It's a lot of fun. The Commissioner Odom, who was here earlier, and I tonight will be the Vanna Whites of the pumpkin auction tomorrow night. And so that raises money for the scholarship programs through the Ray-Peck Schools Foundation. It's a great event. If you can join us up at Holmes Hall tomorrow night, it starts at 5:30 there. Also, to talk about the construction that's going on out here, I'm sure you've seen in the news that in the last week there have been 3 fatality incidents where road rage was the motive for those killings. Not to say that it's going to happen here, but if you get really upset about the traffic, try to calm down real quick and just move on. Take other routes if you feel threatened. That's the most safe thing to do, and not to confront. In this day and age, you just don't know who you're confronting. And then the last item is, that I'd like to talk about is that something's going to happen here in the next week or so before we meet again. Oh yeah, it's an election. It's huge. They're expecting like an 80% turnout. It's going to be bollocksed up at all of our voting polls. Just be patient, please, as you get in line to vote. If you can vote early down at the county, if there's some reason you're not going to be around that day, try to get to the voting booth. It's important to exercise that right, and I would encourage everyone. I'd love to see 100% turnout here in Raymore. 80% is pretty darn good, though, so we're hoping for that. And with that, I would ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we move into and enter into executive session to discuss litigation matters as authorized by 610.021 subsection 1 and personnel matters as authorized by 610.021 subsection 3.
Thank you. Is there a second?
That covers it.
Motion been made and seconded to move into the executive session. All those in favor? Oh, roll call vote. I'm sorry, I got a roll call vote. You're right.
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hubach?
Yes.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Yes.
Councilmember Moorhead?
Yes.
Councilmember Semers?
Yes.
All right, we're in executive session, and when the executive session is over, we'll reconvene to adjourn from regular session.